What is going on, traders? This is the weekly outlook video. My name's Clay with Top One Trader, and let's dive into it. Shooting this a little later than I normally do because I've been traveling the previous week, the past couple weeks, mostly during the summer, and enjoying some summertime. And the markets have been that way too. Things have definitely been slow, but we are rolling into the last of the summer trading months, and this week is the first week technically of August. Not technically, it is. So the big thing when we look at the data for the week is Thursday's the 31st, but Friday is August 1st, so you know what that means. And it's NFP week, right? So I think it's going to be a pretty big one. I mean, you never know with NFP, but you know, the thing is we're getting into Q3, and the statistics and data behind the third quarter, and it's coming to a close, going into the fourth quarter, and the fourth quarter all the way up until, you know, the week before Christmas or so is always super volatile. So I think summer trading is coming somewhat to an end, but it's not quite there yet, right? But NFP, first week of August, this is a clear sign that we're, you know, moving into the fourth quarter. So things will be wrapping up for the summer, but some key points I wanted to talk about specifically. I know I talked about NFP, but Wednesday is going to be, I mean, look at all the red folders here, right? So Bank of Canada, and then we have the Fed, you know, Fed at 1, Bank of Canada 8:45, GDP numbers for the US, and then also too, Bank of Japan, right? So Bank of Japan is always one that can be a bit of a wild card, but I'm going to be looking for probably some big volatility. And you know, we have the FOMC earlier that day, and then stack on top of that yen, Bank of Japan later in the day. I think it could be, you know, super big. So Sunday, Monday, Tuesday, don't expect much action until there's going to be a lot of choppiness going into Wednesday. So if we pull it up here, now I've been looking at some crypto stuff I got going on here. Let me switch up my charts. So if we take a look at US dollar JPY, one that I specifically wanted to look at, things have been somewhat trending upwards, right? So I like to have my SMA on here. I do like to use an envelope just to really kind of show me what type of trend, whether or not we're trending, and it appears we are, right? So higher high, higher low, and then we go into another higher high where we broke this high right here, significant, right? So, and then higher low. Kind of, yeah, it's right there on this level of support, right? So I think this could be a big move depending on the hawkishness or dovishness of the FOMC. Now, Trump has been beefing with pretty much everybody. Things have not been the best in the White House in Washington ever since all this whole Epstein stuff came about. And then last week, there's a really awkward exchange between Jerome Powell, if you want to call it that, and Trump. And so people are speculating. I don't even know if Trump can fire the head of the Fed because they're their own institution. And if you should look into it and read about the Fed and what its role actually is. It's pretty messed up. So I don't even know if he can fire him, but the relationship is on ice. So let's put it that way, right? So if we look at the dollar index here, though, we had been trending lower. I've been talking about this in the previous Outlook videos, and it looks like we are going to be accumulating a bit, which is means at the bottom of a trend, you'll have an accumulation zone, and then a big push upwards, and then a distribution zone at the top, right? So this looks like we could be kind of chopping around a bit, which would make sense, especially going into the FOMC before we make a move. So let's take a look at Euro USD, which is the inverse of this, right? So dollar index, right? Now you could look at dollar Swiss and see, well, it's pretty much the same chart, but of course it leads with US dollars. So if we look at Euro USD, which is the opposite of that, say there's some hawkishness coming out of the Fed on Wednesday. I don't know. It could happen. And then that would bring about some strength for the US dollar, right? So I would say don't discount that. Another good thing to look at is gold. It made an all-time high. We're at 3,300, which is huge. But it looks like, remember I talked about accumulation and distribution. This would be an area where we may start accumulating before the big run, before a big breakout. And if you take a look at gold, which would be the opposite, this would be a distribution where, price kind of levels out before a deeper pullback. Now, I'm not saying that is what's going to happen, but, it looks very possible, right? And one of the reasons why I like these, the moving average and the envelope here, is because when we have some nice spacing here, it shows us that, man, this is trending very nicely. Now, you can see how price just goes right through the middle of it, right? So it's very choppy, a lot of indecision in the markets. And so that signals that, hey, this could be an accumulation phase before, a distribution phase before price pulls back a little bit. Where might it pull back to? I don't know. This looks like a pretty good potential zone, right? These lonely little candles right here, boom. That would be quite the pullback, but it would make sense because it would be right at 3K, right? So, which would be a big area for gold, and for a long-term trader, might be a good place to load up on some. So that being said, NFP, FOMC, it's going to be a massive week, and we got some cool promos going on now for the end of the month and the start of August. So let's make it happen, everybody. Thanks for watching. Happy trading. Peace.